Alrighty, so we have two elite grapplers here. So it's Muniz versus Jacare Souza. Right, so for Jacare's on a bit of a slump. He's lost his last 3 fights. He's 2-4 in his last 6 fights. He's already talked about retirement. Has he got one foot out the door? There's questions there. Muniz, on the other hand, just joined the UFC. I think he's 3-0 or something to start his career in the UFC. And yeah, he's 10 years younger. He's more of a prospect. It's more of a prospect versus gatekeeper type fight. And he's got a 6-inch reach advantage, but this is a step up in competition for him. His last fight was Bartosz Fabinski, I think, so pretty big step up in competition in my opinion. On the feet, Jacare comes in with that forward pressure. He's mostly a counter striker. He looks for you to commit to your offense and then he'll look to counter from there. His counter arsenal is pretty limited. Like, it's usually just the counter 2 or the counter 2-3. And he can be a little low volume because of that, just because he is always looking for the counter. And for Muniz, he's a southpaw. He isn't the best striker. I think he prefers the fight to be on the mat for sure. It doesn't seem like the most natural striker. I do think Jacare has the advantage on the feet, honestly. So Muniz, he'll crash forward with a 1-2 or a 2-1 and look to get into the clinch and look for takedowns from there. He'll go for a check right hook if you get him on the back foot, but yeah, as I said before, not the most natural striker. Neither is Jacare though, but Jacare's really worked on it a lot, and he's a bit more polished of a striker than Muniz. And Jacare has some kicks as well. He has a high kick that he, finished Bronson with. His kicks are pretty slow and stiff, but, he does have them in his arsenal. The concerning thing about Jacare's stand-up is that he will keep his hands low and he does rely on head movement to avoid strikes. So as he gets older and his reflexes start to slow, then it could become a little problematic for him, just the way he defends strikes. Alright, so we'll get into the grappling, so where the fight really gets interesting. So Muniz, he doesn't set up his takedowns. Also, don't think his takedowns are the best. I don't think his takedowns are on the level of Jacare's. He does have a driving double. He will look to drive you to the fence, look for an inside leg trip in the clinch once he does get there. And for Jacare, usually those two takedowns are his go-to takedowns as well. And he seems to be looking to grapple a lot more in recent fights. One thing Muniz does is that he has a very nice guillotine when the opponent shoots a double. So you always got to be careful because Jacare got caught in, I think, the guillotine of Hermanson when he was shooting. So he does need to watch out because this guy does have a good squeeze, but sometimes it seems like he's squeezing on chokes that that are never gonna happen. Like he'll go for a jump guillotine, and then he looks like he's squeezing his heart out, and he's trying to just force the choke. It's weird. I don't know what it is. Like, obviously he's a high level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, much better grappler than me, but just from the observer's point of view, it doesn't seem like the choke's on at all. Like he's got no hooks in, that kind of stuff. He does it a lot, so I don't know what it is. It's got to be something. It's got to have some reason for it. But he does play off his back a lot. He likes to jump guillotine. He doesn't have the best takedown defense. He likes to play off his back, arm bars, triangles. He's very dangerous off his back. And for Jacare, he looks to pass guard immediately, and he looks to stay very tight on top. He's very defensive on top. For how these guys win fights, so they're both legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, and Muniz, as I said before, very dangerous off his back. And for Jacare, he's got good takedown defense, so he's worked on his wrestling game to a level that he can pretty much decide where the fight is going to be, unless he faces a super high level wrestler like Yoel Romero or something like that. So how these guys lose fights, so for Jacare Souza, he can be quite low volume, just with his counter strike and style. For Muniz, his takedowns aren't the best. His takedowns aren't very good. He seems to rely on his bottom game a fair bit, which, historically has been an unsuccessful game plan in the UFC at this level. And, he seems to slow after 2 in a fight that involves a lot of grappling. In that Arroyo fight, I was not inspired by that performance at all. That was a terrible fight. So yeah, I do think he slows down quite a bit. Alright, so path to victory for these two. So for Muniz, look to ground Jacare and get in top control. Work your top game from there. Don't just rely on your bottom game. For Jacare, on the feet, look to counter him as he comes blitzing forward. Wait for him to come to you. Just try and take away that reach deficit that you have to give up. So wait for him to come to you and then land your offense. Also, just the kicks at distance in between the blitzes and the exchanges. Just to keep up points, just to keep the volume up. You know, you're the veteran. Make sure you're up on the scorecards at all times. But yeah, look to keep it on the feet if you're having success. I think you're the better striker, so if you're having success on the feet and his reach isn't giving you too many problems, then just keep it on the feet. But if it is tight in the feet and you are having trouble with the length, then, you know, look to get in the clinch, look to cage push, pretty much the game plan that you had against Jan Blachowicz. You know, I think that would work against Muniz, and it would also take away the reach advantage. But also, you know, don't be afraid to try and take him down, get in top position. You just have to be mindful of the arm bars and stuff. But, you know, get in top position as he's trying to look for wrist control, come over the top with hard elbows, hard ground and pound. You know, posture up. He's pretty comfortable off his back, but just be mindful of the arm bars. Alright, so how I see the fight going. So yeah, I'm keen to see who initiates the grappling in this one because, you know, obviously both are very high level on the mat. I'm not even going to start to try and break down all the little traps they use and all the little setups that they have because I'm a white belt with one stripe, so I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm not going to pretend like I know all the traps that these guys are setting because these guys are so high above me in the level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, but what I do know is that Jacare has the better wrestling, so he's more likely to end up in top position if it does hit the mat. And he also has the faculties to decide where this fight plays out. If he wants to keep it on the feet, I believe he'll be able to stuff the takedowns of Muniz, and I think he'll be able to take Muniz down if he wants. So I think he'll be able to decide where the fight does play out. And I do think Jacare is better on the feet. You know, barring Jacare's chin is an absolute dust. You know, I guess it looked it in the Holland fight, but, you know, maybe he was just caught off guard by that unusual technique and the unusual placement of, you know, that punch. Because yeah, that was a weird. You don't expect that guy to just swing a right hook or a left hook off bottom. You just don't expect that. So he may be caught off guard. His chin has looked fine up until that point. But I do think this is a good matchup for him overall. Like, you know, if it does hit the mat, he should be able to stifle the active guard, the submissions from bottom. Like Muniz could catch Jacare with that armbar. Like, he's very quick to lock it up. He can catch anybody in the world with it. But I just don't see it happening here. I think Jacare is going to be smart enough. He's going to know what Muniz is dangerous with, and he's going to be able to just stifle it. So I'm not ready to write off Jacare just yet. In his second to last fight, he fought a very competitive fight with the current light heavyweight champ, Jan Blachowicz, and we all understand how good Jan is now. So I'm not ready to write him off just yet. Like, a lot of people thought he won that fight. I actually thought he won, but, you know, it's neither here nor there. Alright, let's have a look at the lines. Alright, so yeah, the prediction is Jacare. I do think he wins. And I think he knocks Muniz out. You know, I don't think Muniz's chin is very good, and I think Jacare has a little bit of power, so... but I wouldn't be surprised at a decision. Alright, so having a look at the line, I think I agree with Jacare being the favourite. I do favour him a little more highly than the line favours him right now. I do favour him at around 60% to win the fight, so I think he should be around $1.70 or whatever that is in the money line terms. 145. I just looked it up, so that's the money line that I think Jacare should be at the moment. And I do think there's a little bit of value on Jacare, and I'm probably going to be betting him. I'm kind of hoping his price goes up a little bit, but I'd bet him at $1.80